Hi, good morning. So here I am again answering your questions. Many of the questions are still coming in from readers of You Are the Universe, Discovering Your Cosmic Self and Why It Matters. I'm grateful for your support. As you know, you can send questions to info@jayo.com, info at jayo.com. Once again, info@jayo.com. So also I want to remind you, please download the app Jayo, Jiyo. You can download the app Jayo from iTunes or Android, and we are creating, with your help, a critical mass for a more peaceful, just, sustainable, healthier and joyful world. Your participation is extremely important. Without you, there would be no ecosystem for us to resonate at the same frequency. So I want you to be passionately involved in creating this ecosystem. Please download the app Jayo, Jiyo. Once again, please download the app Jiyo, available from Android and iTunes. Okay, coming to today's question, which is from Prodesia Pligma. What an interesting name. Oh no, that's the email. Name is Lisa Yoffe. And she says, greetings. What are personality disorders such as narcissism and sociopathic behavior in a spiritual context? I ponder the why of this a lot, since this manifestation of consciousness seems to cause a lot of harm and hurt to humanity. Is it an immature projection of consciousness, ego gone wild? I realize my perceptions are projections of my state of consciousness within. Since I suppose this manifestation of consciousness is my shadow, it holds an immense fascination for me at times. This is one projection of consciousness I wish I didn't perceive, as it is just so unpleasant. That being said, I also realize we all have the potential for this manifestation, given the right life circumstances, etc. Thank you for your ideas. Many blessings to you and your family. Thank you, Lisa, and many blessings to you and your family as well. Let me try and address this question to the best of my capacity. First of all, realize that if consciousness is infinite, then it expresses itself with infinite diversity. No one is left out. From the sociopath to the murderer to the rapist to the plunderer to what we in religion refer to as the sinner. I have also mentioned in the past that the sinner and saint are extreme opposites of the same fundamental infinite reality. And there's a saying from the Vedanta and from Nisargadatta Maharaj, the sinner and the saint are merely exchanging notes. The saint has a past, the sinner has a future. So who are we to judge? Who are we to judge? The judge today could be the person in the prison. And the person in the prison today could be a great human being tomorrow. Such is the play of consciousness. But having said that, I think we should address your question very specifically. Since you say, I realize my perception and projections are a manifestation of my shadow, it holds immense fascination for me. First of all, not necessarily. Only if you are triggered into reactivity by people whose behavior is unpleasant or stressful to others, only if you are triggered into anger and resentment and grievance and moral self-righteousness and vengeance and trying to teach the other person a lesson, only then that could be a shadow. Otherwise, it's just part of the play of consciousness, and your response should be to observe it and to participate in collective change, which we are doing right now. We are participating in collective change by personally transforming, because as I've said many times before, the collective consciousness projects itself as our collective reality, including our leaders. So if our collective consciousness is anchored in narcissism, then our leader will be a narcissistic manifestation of our collective narcissism. I think you know what I'm referring to right now. Also, if our collective consciousness is in fear, that will be represented in fear-based outcomes, including war, terrorism, eco-destruction, social and economic injustice, violence, and actually leaders who represent that. So ultimately, it's our collective consciousness that is manifesting as what we call everyday reality. Narcissism is a very specific disorder which has specific roots. So is sociopathic behavior, very specific disorder that has specific roots. And let me come back to that in 15 seconds. So we're back here. The roots of narcissism go to childhood. Everyone, of course, knows the Greek myth of Narcissus, who was so fascinated by his face and so in love with his face that he couldn't stop staring at it in a pool of water. And ultimately, you know, he was looking so closely that he fell off and he drowned in that pool. So narcissists ultimately end up with destroying themselves. But narcissism has its roots in childhood and is an outcome of lack of approval by parents and caretakers. So if you're surrounded in an environment where you're constantly needing to validate yourself, prove yourself, I am not good enough is the internal dialogue. I'm not beautiful enough is the internal dialogue. And because of the conversations around you, that you aren't good enough. And this is part of the conditioning that leads to a compensatory response to say, I am good enough. It's an extreme insecurity. I am beautiful enough. So, you know, many such people actually end up becoming celebrities and great actors and actresses and people in the public eye because they are so in love with their self-image. And they manage to convince other people of that self-image, but inside there is always a deep insecurity because celebrities and famous people are only as good as their last appearance or last performance or last song or last movie or last status as a president or corporate CEO or whatever. Okay, so it's never enough, and ultimately it is so stressful that it leads to inflammation, and the person ends up in self-destructive behavior, including drugs, alcohol, addictive patterns, including the addiction to approval, the addiction for validation, the addiction to feel better than others. So this is true of many leaders, many celebrities, and it's their temporary reprieve from self-destruction. Let's talk about sociopathy or sociopathic behavior. That has different roots. It's a lack of conscience, actually. It's a lack of conscience, and the lack of conscience is also programmed when there is permission to do harm. So it is the shadow that emerges when there's permission to do harm by our surroundings, when there is inappropriate behavior in our surroundings, when there are passive bystanders to deeds that are hurtful, when there is poor leadership, when there is economic deprivation, when there is us versus them mentality, when there is war, when there is crisis, then this part also comes out, and people behave without a conscience. We've seen that on a massive scale in leaders, in massive destruction through bombing of civilians and women and children, and bombing in general through landmines, through destruction of the landmines, but also the ravaging and creation of killing fields in times of war. I think war and terrorism are collective sociopathic behavior. So do remember right now, I'm not talking as an expert, I'm just sharing with you my my insights. Narcissism and sociopathic behavior, two different things, but when they are combined, especially in our leadership, then that can cause a great degree of harm. But remember, we are the ones who elected the leaders, so collectively we also have to take the responsibility for having narcissistic and sometimes sociopathic leaders across the world. And you can look at examples everywhere that you see. What is the solution? The solution is you can't change another person. It's hard enough to change yourself, so try focusing on that. Try not to be narcissistic yourself, not looking for need for approval, validation, need to feel superior, need to prove yourself, and try also to listen to the still voice of conscience and see if what you're doing is harmful, hurtful, or loving, compassionate, empathetic, and making a difference in the lives of others. And if we collectively do that, then we will see a different world. So once again, my plea, please join, download Jayo. Let's help together create that ecosystem for healing, because in the deeper reality, that's all there is, the wholeness which we call healing. After a few years, I suddenly chanced upon the Course of Miracles once again, and it said something very profound. There's a very profound statement in the Course of Miracles. It says, nothing real can be threatened and nothing unreal exists. Nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. In this knowing is the peace of God. That peace of God is the peace of understanding. It is also the peace that passes understanding. And when we are in that realm of the peace that passes understanding, which is pure awareness, pure consciousness, pure being, pure existence, then we are holy and we are healed. I'm seeing wonderful comments from all of you. Thank you. It seems that we are together in our desire to be peaceful, to enjoy equanimity, love, compassion, and ultimately replace fear with the deepest love that is possible. So thank you once again, and please download Jayo and become part of this community. Participate, post your own insights, post your own moments, and let's all create that ecosystem. You can create an ecosystem of like-minded brothers and sisters who are all aspiring to higher consciousness, to healing, and to wholeness. Thank you very much, and I'll see you tomorrow.